I can't even. Oh, frick. Frick. Hello. Hello. I can't even. Power School's been down all day. I have so many things I need to do. Grades I need to put in. Kids that I need to check where they are. What a gigantic pain. Junior, senior. Poopy doop. Joyce isn't here today? Huh. Okie doke. Hi.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
My keys just broke.
Your what just broke?
My keys. I have like a whole freaking wallet. Well, yeah, of course I do. But all my keys are like connected, and my car key just like flung out at me for some reason. Oh well.
Oh well. I'm having to write down attendance because Power School's been down all day. So I have to make sure that I'm. Oh wait, before I forget. Oh, did he ever come to class? I don't think so. Boy, hard to remember things. Okay. It's a very exciting day because we're done with reading short stories.
Oh.
I know. I like short stories. And I believe next week we're going to move on to drama. But today, this week is probably not going to be like the entertaining week because we have a lot of resources to go through. I'm going to try not to go through like 20,000 every day, but to kind of break it up because there are a lot of resources about writing your first essay. Isn't that exciting? The good thing about the essay, my camera's freezing up. It's so annoying. The good thing is that it's not actually due until after spring break, which I know that some of you guys last semester said you're giving us too much time on essays and it makes us kind of like not do things until the last minute. And I'm totally aware of that, but you also have certain checkpoints you have to meet for this essay. So even though it's not due until after spring break, you are kind of forced to work on it. As I'm looking at the schedule, your thesis will be due next Monday. So you definitely already have to decide like what you want to write about and get your main argument down. You will have an outline due next Thursday, but also by then we will be reading our first short play. So you'll have some stuff, you'll have a prompt and a quiz with that. But everything on the due date calendar is correct right now. So the first thing I want to do, I'll share my screen in just a minute, is just go over what the short story essay looks like and what you're actually writing about. Okay, share my screen. It is called, the first play we're going to read is a short play called Trifles by Susan Glaspell. And then the second one is called Fences by August Wilson. And it's a longer play. We'll probably read some of that one together and some of it on your own, just because it's like a full length play. And then actually there was a movie of it recently, like in the last 5 years, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to check on that before I forget because that's going to drive me crazy. When was this made? Starring Denzel Washington. And I have not decided yet, but we're either going to, there's 1 week where we're either going to watch the movie of Fences after we read it, or we're going to watch the movie of Hamilton before we assess it for lyrics.
The movie of Hamilton.
That's what Miss Cathan says too. She's like, I'll hang out in your class every day. I've never seen Hamilton. Yeah, I've never seen Hamilton. I know. It's just kind of one of those things. Julius, are you anti-Hamilton? For me, it's kind of one of those things where like it just can't live up to the hype, so I just haven't watched it. Like it can't live up to the hype. But I'm gonna watch it on my own at least before we start looking at the lyrics, because otherwise I won't have any background on it. So it also kind of depends on like how I could get either one of these movies. Like I know that Hamilton's on Disney Plus, but we can't access Disney Plus here. So I don't know if I could find Fences somewhere or if I could pirate Hamilton. I just don't know yet. But that's a different question for a different day, and really more my problem than yours. That's fair. When did Hamilton come out? 2017. I feel like
No, they did the recording in 2016. They recorded the play in 2016, and it didn't come out like on Disney Plus till 2020.
I knew it wasn't on Disney Plus for a while, but when Julia said Miss Cathan's shown enough clips in the classes he had with her, I was like, well, that was a while ago. I mean, like in the grand span of time, it's not, but I feel like it's been ages since you had Miss Cathan. When did Hamilton come out? September 2015. That makes sense. Madison Julia says he's rewatching part 3. I guess. Of JoJo? What's JoJo? Who knows? What okay. You guys are being very mysterious. I don't know what it is. Oh, okay. Okay, so let's look at what you guys are going to be doing for your first essay. You're going to choose one of the short stories to write a paper about that's at least 800 words long. So that is Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been? Yellow Wallpaper. Ooh, let's just look back at this. The Veldt or the Illustrated Man. Illustrated Man's so short, I feel like it'd be hard to do. A Good Man Is Hard to Find, or A&P. There should be no outside research for this first paper. It should just be your insights alone. So you don't have to cite anything except for the text of the story itself. The focus of this paper is to prove that you have a working knowledge of the literary terms and devices that you learned about in the lectures. There are 4 paper topics you're going to choose from. You're just choosing one topic, one story. Okay, so your first option. Answer the question of whether a character from one of the stories is round or flat and static or dynamic. I mean, I'm in the middle of class. Jesus. Giving proof for each assertion. Also, what is his or her motivation for action or behavior? And I know that we went over this a bit with the characters from the Yellow Wallpaper, but you could absolutely write it about a character from any of the 5/6 stories. The second one, what is the life lesson, also known as the theme of the story? Use details from the story to provide the theme. A theme, this is always worth reiterating because somebody will inevitably do this like every time. A theme must be more than one word. You will not receive credit if you say, I'm not gonna say you won't receive credit, you won't receive full credit if you say that the theme was love or family. And again, look at the notes and lectures about this, because the theme is what the author is wanting you to get out of it. So like, it might be that family is more about who cares about you than who you're blood related to. That could be stated better. I stated that in a really ugly way, but like, it has to be something about that subject. It can't just be like the subject. Option 3, analyze a symbol used in the story. This would be really fun for Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been? Even Yellow Wallpaper, or the Flannery O'Connor, whatever that one's called. Good Man Is Hard to Find. There's some symbolism in that one. Fully explore how it is used literally in the story, what the symbol means on a deeper level, and why the author chose that particular symbol. A good part about that one also is that it's already kind of telling you how to structure your essay. Talk about this thing, and this thing. And then your option number 4, which I think Yellow Wallpaper would be an excellent one to do here. How does the point of view affect the story? In other words, what is the author teaching readers by choosing this point of view? And is the narrator reliable? Meaning, are they telling you the truest version of the story, or does that narrator's version of the truth look different than what the truth actually would be if someone objective were telling it? I love a good unreliable narrator. And sometimes narrators are unreliable because they have some kind of mental block against telling the truth. Like, I would argue that the Yellow Wallpaper narrator is unreliable. She's literally having mental health issues. Sometimes it's because their version of the truth just looks a lot different than someone else's. Sometimes they're trying to protect themselves or make themselves look better. There's any number of reasons that a narrator could be unreliable. Regardless of which one you choose, MLA format, 12-point font, double spaced, you know all these things. And if you don't, I mean, obviously double check with me. Like if you're confused about formatting stuff or just need like some help on it, absolutely. Those of you who are in 101, we did some quizzes on MLA stuff. And then also I uploaded a sample paper that was incorrect MLA format so that you could have something to kind of model it against. And I would do that again if y'all felt like it would be helpful. A useful title capturing the essence of your paper's focus. So not like essay number 1. Clear, concise, arguable thesis statement that accurately signals the position you will assert in the paper. This should be the last sentence of your first paragraph. Multiple paragraphs. This is just organization stuff. Ample, specific details from the story to support, expand, or illustrate your claims. You'll need at least 2 direct quotes from the story. At least 2. Properly cited and written in third person with formal language, no I, you, or we. And when I say formal language, I don't mean like very elevated vocabulary. I don't mean you should try to sound like Shakespeare. I just mean your tone should be objective and scholarly. Write like you talk, but just a little cleaner version of it. Okay. So, and you can kind of see there. I don't know why that doesn't go to the bottom. Okay, so the thing we're going to look at today, you can kind of see over here. We're going to get through all of this stuff this week, and it's kind of a lot. What? That's not a word, Julius. It's kind of a lot. Held. Healed. What? That's how I say what? Health. Health? What do you say? Well, you're not speaking today. And why am I saying it wrong?
No, you like you don't say health, but like a minute ago when you said it, it sounded you went like health.
You just said the same thing twice.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
Health and health.
It was like health, and then but then there's health. Like no, that was too dramatic.
Am I crazy? This sounds the same.
Health or health, like health, and then there's health.
Julius, I don't want to gaslight you, but I feel like you're saying the exact same thing.
I'm not. I promise I'm not.
Am I saying it wrong?
No, you're not saying it wrong. That's just how you say it. Like I think it's like a southern accent type of thing. Like health.
Is this like the what thing all over again?
Yeah, but that's
children picking on me.
I'm not picking on you. I just realized that.
You're antagonizing me. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at, obviously this is a lot. I don't even know when I said health. When did I say health?
It was like 5 minutes ago. I was just thinking about it that whole time.
I'm so flabbergasted right now. I don't even know. This is obviously a lot of stuff. We're going to get through it all this week to help you guys. The first thing we're going to do is this video instructions. It's like 5 minutes. And then we've got a little PowerPoint to look at. Or we're going to try to. Oops, there was a problem. No kidding. Guys, this worked earlier today. And now it works again. This is beautiful, wonderful. All right.
Hi class, I just wanted to quickly go through the short story essay instructions.
We can't see it.
You are on the content page.
Sorry.
You can scroll down to the short story.
Oh wait, no, we can. Yes, we can. I thought this was.
Okay. I swear to God.
What you're going to do is choose one of the short stories that's on our syllabus, one of the ones that were assigned, that you took quizzes on, did discussion posts on, And you're going to choose one of those stories to write a paper that's at least 800 words long. There should be no outside research. It's just going to be.
I feel like this is literally exactly what I just said to you, but we're going to watch it anyway in case she says anything else. I did not preview this video, so we're just going to watch it anyway.
Your analysis of the story by applying one of 4 literary devices to that story. This will show me that you know that story really well and that you're able to apply a literary device and prove that you understand that as well. So there's a combination of the two things, knowing the story, knowing the literary device. So we're not going to do any research for this one. You're going to save that for your second essay. So there are 4 topics from which to choose. So you're going to pick one topic, one story. The first thing you can do is decide whether a character from the story is round or flat and static or dynamic. So you'll need to know the difference between all those terms. So round and flat refer to the number of adjectives that can describe a character. Static or dynamic describes whether the character has any sort of profound change by the end of the story. So what you would do is you'd have a paragraph that proves round or flat and a paragraph that proves static or dynamic. You can also have a third body paragraph for motivation, but if you've already gotten to the 800 words, you can just prove those 2 literary devices. The second one would be the theme. Make sure that the theme isn't just one word, that it is a theme statement. So something like revenge is bittersweet, family always lets you down, something like that. So if you think about the theme as the moral of the story, you're in good shape. So in order to format that particular essay, what you would want to do is think of 2 or 3 reasons why that's the moral of the story, and those would be your body paragraphs. The third option is to analyze a symbol or more than one symbol and explain how it's used symbolically. So for instance, if you decide to do symbolism from A&P, you could pick 2, 3, or 4 symbols in that story and then 1 paragraph for each of those symbols. Lastly, you could talk about the point of view. So what I'm asking you to do is not just say, oh, this story is first person because the writer uses I, but I want you to explain why the author chose that point of view. So in a lot of ways, this ties into the theme. So if the narration is first person, why is it important specifically to have that person's point of view? What are we supposed to learn from that? So you'll choose one story, one of these options, and apply that. So what else do you need to do? I told you it needs to be at least 800 words. So you need to do formatting, and I'll show you a separate video for that. There's also a lot of resources out there through Google, and there's a lot of resources on our content page under the writing lectures module.
Purdue
You need a good title that captures the essence of your paper. So you wouldn't say, A&P, that's not the title of your paper, that's the title of the story. So what's your paper about? A good thesis statement that will need to be the last sentence of your first paragraph. That will need to be approved on the discussion board before you write your essay. Multiple paragraphs, so the minimum 4, but can be more depending on your thesis. And you need obviously an introduction paragraph and a conclusion paragraph. Details from the story to support your claim. Remember that everything you're doing in this paper is to prove your thesis. You're not just giving me a book report or a plot summary. You are proving that 1 sentence thesis statement. You need to have at least 2 direct quotes from the story properly cited. At the bare minimum, you need at least 1 quote for each body paragraph. Otherwise, you haven't provided enough evidence. Finally, make sure that you write in third person. So don't say, I think the theme is, just say the theme is. You want to use authoritative academic language. Remember that I don't take late papers out of fairness to everyone else, so make sure you plan ahead. And here's the rubrics. You can see where you'll get all your points. You'll see this in the assignment folder when you get your essay back graded. You see the bulk of the grade comes from your body paragraphs. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.
I feel like that was almost exactly what I said to you guys. The only things that I think she kind of went over a little bit more in detail were what was that thing at the end? Oh, that you should have at least one quote for each body paragraph. So you could get away with having only 2 body paragraphs, but you definitely need a quote for each of them, because if you don't have a quote per body paragraph, you're not giving enough evidence to support your thesis. And also, I like that she emphasized this is not just a book report, it's an arguable position that you're taking that we should be able to see from your thesis. It's an analysis, which I think that you guys probably know that by now. And also you can read directions. So I think it's pretty clear. Okay, so what we're gonna go over today, I'm not going through all these things in order. I know I'm gonna do this one. Let me just check my little lesson plan. That's not, nope, that's not even this month. Short story, essay intro and tips. So we're gonna do this one. I'm gonna pull it open in my, oh, I think I am. Yeah. In my Adobe. Okay. We should be able to, yeah, we'll have plenty of time to get through this. Okay, so first off, we're just going to review MLA stuff a little bit. You should include a title that specifies your focus in the essay, and I kind of mentioned that in the directions, but vague titles like essay or short story essay or like yellow wallpaper analysis or something like that. Try to have a more focused, effective title. Don't use only the title of the work you're analyzing. Like the title of your first essay shouldn't be A&P. It doesn't tell me what you're actually focusing on. It could be something like Sammy's point of view in John Updike's A&P. That would be fine. Sammy, flat or static? Question mark. No, it's kind of corny, but instead you should specify both the work you are analyzing and your specific approach to the work. So these are not stories that we have looked at, but good examples of solid titles. The Cost of Illusions in Miller's Death of a Salesman. That's a good title. And also that's a good play. The Paralyzing World of Dublin in Joyce's Eveline. The Failed Search for Love in Susan Minot's Lust. Yeats' View of History in The Second Coming. Dime a Dozen, The Lives of Working Men in Miller's Death of a Salesman. I like this one. I don't know what the hell I'm working for. Death of a Salesman and the Loss of the American Dream. Or Honor the Light Brigade, Tennyson's Forced Patriotism in The Charge of the Light Brigade. I don't like Tennyson, and this is totally off subject, but I can't remember the logic behind it, but my AP literature teacher, my senior year of high school, was such a cool, crazy old man, and he hated Alfred Lord Tennyson. And during some point reading the poem The Eagle, he stood on his head in class to like illustrate a point. But I don't remember what the point was. I just remember him standing on his head. He was a lot of fun. I don't know how to stand on my head. I'm not going to do that. Italicize the titles of other people's plays and books. Italicize it as Death of Salesman. So we're dealing with short stories here. So you're going to use quotation marks around the titles of short stories, poems, and essays. And it's got some examples there. Stay in third person. Y'all know this. Don't use I or you. Instead, adopt general terms like readers, the audience, or one. I don't really love one, but it's fine. Your essay should be in present tense. This isn't something that you guys have really struggled with. I like the way they phrase this. Literary works, paintings, films, and other artistic creations are assumed to exist in an eternal present. They're always present. They're ongoing. Therefore, when you write about writers or artists as they express themselves in their work, use the present tense. You should use the past tense when discussing historical events, and you should use the literary present when discussing fictional events. Interesting. When describing an author's work, however, use the past tense, like Henry Fielding wrote in the 18th century. When discussing events in a book or story, always use the present tense. Does that make sense? Like if you're saying, like Ray Bradbury was a prolific author in the latter half of the 20th century, that would make sense. And you would want to use that in past tense because he was a person who lived and he did some stuff. But if you're writing about the Veld, then you would write it in present tense because the Veld exists permanently, in perpetuity. So for example, there, Evelyn then rips into the carefully wrapped package and finds the greatest gift she's ever received. Her eyes fill with tears, blah, blah, blah. Evelyn is suffering from guilt as she compares this present to the shoddy gift that she bought for her beau. And bought was in past tense because the buying of the present occurred before the described set of events. I feel like this almost makes it more complicated than it really is, just because I think that you guys kind of do this without thinking most times because you just know that that's how essays are meant to be written. But I do like the idea of the eternal present. Fiction exists in perpetuity. I like that. Analytical essays. All analytical essays about literary works contain a central argument, and the purpose of this argument is to persuade your reader that your ideas about the literary work are valid. And I've said to you guys before, when emphasizing not to use I and me and other personal pronouns in your formal essays, that even though it is your opinion, state it like it's fact so that we think, or your reader is convinced that what we're reading is valid. Your opinions and your ideas are valid. You're also working to help your reader to better understand the short story. In fact, that's the reason that your reader is reading your essay, to gain a clearer sense of the ideas an author conveys in his or her play, story, or poem. Or at least that's the goal. And you know, people have been very successful at this in the past. Y'all have heard me over the last couple weeks say like, oh, a kid wrote this essay about this story and it was a cool thing that I'd never thought of before. And like, I love reading people's essays where I think I've never thought of it that way before. It's such a highlight. Usually grading essays is not one of my favorite parts of this job, but like when I get to read an essay, it makes me look at something in a new way. I love it. What does it all mean? To effectively analyze a work, you need to address not just what happens in a work, but what these events mean. So you need to make sure that you're not just summarizing what happens. After all, we've already read all the stories together, so you don't have to really sum it back up for me. You need to describe events and characters, but then you have to go a step further. You have to work to explain the ideas the writer conveys through depicting these specific situations or characters in the way that he or she does. And that's really the true challenge of analytical essays. So some guidelines for your introductory paragraph. You're going to want to identify the author and title of the work that you're analyzing this in the essay, even if you've already given that information in your title. You want to give the writer's full name the first time you identify him or her. But then from there on, you'll just use the last name. And again, that's something I think that y'all have gotten pretty good at. Occasionally, I still get essays or responses where people are like, in the story, The Veld, Ray says, and I'm like, Ray, you don't know him. He's not your friend. He would be. He loved everyone. But if he's not my friend, he's certainly not you guys' friend, right? So the first time, you just want to make sure that you introduce all of the information, even if you think some of it's already in my title. Another thing that I see a lot is people just starting essays and they'll be like, in the story, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, which story? And like, you got to be specific here. You should provide a brief summary of the work, usually about 3 to 6 sentences. Again, you can assume that the reader, me, has already read the work, but you still need to provide summary in order to establish the events of the story and the context for your discussion. And it helps prove you know what you're talking about, or it completely ruins your credibility if you get it wrong. If you start writing about the Veldt and you're talking about how it's about a tattooed man, I'm gonna be like, are we like, did they read it wrong, or like, are they actually writing about the illustrated man, or what's up? And then in the introduction with your thesis. Your thesis statement. And those of you who were in AP last year, y'all should be well versed on this by now. You should be pretty much pros at making thesis statements. It's a clear, specific articulation of your central argument in your story. It specifies both your subject and your argument. So it has to contain an arguable statement, not just a statement of fact. Like, there's a character called the Illustrated Man in Ray Bradbury's story, The Illustrated Man. That's not a thesis. That's just a fact. Like, of course there is. What could you tell me about the Illustrated Man? In an essay that analyzes a literary work, the writer tries to persuade readers that his or her main ideas about a literary work are valid. The thesis details those main ideas about the literary work. Also, since the work, I don't know that I am going to stick to this 1,000%. Since the work is the topic of the paper, in order to be as specific as possible, you should list the full name of the author and the full title of the work within the thesis statement. The only reason I'm like taking a little bit of issue with this is because ideally you would have already listed the full title of the story and the author's full name in the first sentence. So then putting it back in the last sentence feels like a little bit of overkill. If you write it and you're still kind of like not sure how you want to go about that, or like if you're not saying enough or you're saying too much, then I can look it over for you. It should be, your thesis should be at the end of your intro paragraph, not the very beginning. The thesis is at minimum 1 sentence in length. You can, however, use more than 1 sentence if necessary. And some of you guys have used 2-sentence theses before. It's usually a thing where you kind of like stumble into it and it's like, oh, that actually worked. I would say kind of try to keep it to 1, but sometimes you just need like 2 sentences to include all the information that you need. I just say be wary of writing too much, because I have had students in the past who felt like they had to cram a whole introduction into a thesis, and you really get in your own way when you try to do that. Like, you have the intro for a reason, and you can kind of spread out your information a little bit. Your thesis is just for your main statement that you're arguing. What a thesis statement cannot contain. It cannot contain only a statement of fact without an argument. And I kind of gave an example a second ago, but this one, spoiler alert, if you haven't read Death of a Salesman, we're not reading it in here, so you don't have to worry about it. But in Death of a Salesman, Willy Loman commits suicide in order to make sure that Biff inherits a large sum of insurance money. That does happen in the play. You're not telling me anything about it, though. A thesis can't contain just a summary of a literary work, such as, first, Willie believes that Biff will get money to start a business. Then Biff fails and tries to get Willie to accept that he will not be a successful businessman. And finally, Willie commits suicide in order to make sure that Biff inherits a large sum of insurance money. That's a lot of info. That should probably be 2 or 3 sentences, but also it's not arguing anything. And then lastly, you cannot refer to yourself in the thesis, and that just goes into the personal pronouns thing. It's a weak thesis to say, I believe that Willie loves Biff, but I also believe that he hurts their relationship by forcing his own dreams on Biff. Let's take that out. Just Willie loves his son Biff, but he also hurts their relationship by forcing his own dreams on Biff. Much better, much stronger. More cannots. Referring to your reader in the thesis. As you can see from Miller's depiction of Willie, again, just kind of like take that out. And I mean, you could take out that whole clause and just say like, Willie is a father who loves his son, but will not let his son be his own person. And we don't want to say you. Children need to be their own people to be a success in life. Children got to be free to live their own lives. That's Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, in case you didn't know. Referring directly to your essay in the thesis, obviously, in the following essay, we will explore. Boo. Is there a thumbs down reaction on this thing? I was actually checking, but I don't remember where to find it. Anyway, the thesis cannot assert that the essay will have an argument. It must specify the argument. So an example there, once one, I don't even like the way that starts. Once one reads the play closely, he or she can see the ways in which Miller conveys his ideas to the reader. By the end of the essay, you will understand how Miller develops his main character and helps us to understand his main points in the play. Just don't make reference to the essay in the essay. And then the thesis cannot be a question, despite what Dominic Ciccarelli has argued with me for years now. It can't be a question. This is a fine question to ask, but it's just not a thesis. I would think that that might be a good sentence to go right before a thesis statement. But what does Willie's suicide at the end of the play tell the audience about him and his illusions? His suicide shows the audience that whatever you want to argue. Topic sentences for body paragraphs. And we haven't talked a whole lot about topic sentences in this class just because I feel like they're kind of an organizational tool that we learn in earlier grades. And by the time we're juniors and seniors, we should kind of just have this ingrained in us, but we don't all. The topic sentence would be like the first sentence of each body paragraph, and it should express the central focus and point in a body paragraph. You can think of them as like mini thesis statements. They need to be specific and present an argument, not just a statement of fact or a description of a situation. And another thing I would say is that when we're taught about topic sentences earlier on in school, you are told like it's the first sentence of each new paragraph. It's not always, and especially like if you have a sentence to transition from one paragraph into the next, you know, that would be your first sentence and you would save a topic sentence for later. But again, that just kind of has to do with like the nuance of being a good writer. An effective topic sentence tells what the paragraph is about and what you're going to say about the topic. A bad example would be the story opens at a train station. A good example would be Hemingway uses the setting of the train station as a symbolic crossroads that reflect both the couple's empty traveling life and their dilemma over the girl's pregnancy. Hills Like White Elephants. That's what that story is. The body paragraphs are the most essential paragraphs in the essay because you use these paragraphs to explain and provide support for all of your central ideas. In short, you're using these paragraphs to show that your thesis makes sense and explain why it makes sense. The body paragraph should follow this general pattern. Specify your argument in the paragraph with a precise topic sentence. Provide some summary or background information to help demonstrate your topic sentence point. Provide examples that support your point by quoting from the work you're analyzing, explaining what these quotations show, and explain the overall significance of your focus in the paragraph, which means connecting the paragraph back to your thesis. And you should only focus on one central idea per paragraph and then kind of transition and move on to the next idea for the next paragraph. Honestly, like if you follow this, like this particular slide, It's like it's almost written for you because it tells you exactly what like each of your sentences is supposed to accomplish. The conclusion, which is all of our favorite parts, is a paragraph where you literally come up with what exactly you've concluded. Like, what do you now know or believe as a result of writing the essay? Yes, it can take some time. Sometimes you wait until the entire essay is absolutely complete before you have enough distance from it to write an effective conclusion, which is another reason that I always suggest like kind of planning ahead and pre-writing. We're going to do an outline. So you're trying to create an argument that makes sense and that comes together at the end. So you need to show how your central points relate to one another and explain the overall significance of your argument and analysis in the essay. Also, you want to end the essay with an assertive statement. This strategy conveys a sense of confidence in your point and helps to drive home your central ideas. It's definitely hard to write conclusions sometimes, and you're just like, how much do I have to say before I just end it? But I think ending with an assertive statement like that, that shows you believe what you just wrote about, this is what I took away from it, I think that's a solid way to go. So, to help you out a little further, to create a good conclusion, work to answer the following questions. What is the writer's apparent message or point in this literary work? What are the effects of the writer presenting this particular situation in this particular way? And what has the reader learned, come to understand, or come to see more clearly in the process of reading this work? And trying to answer those questions helps you address the reader's central goal in reading your essay, which is to better understand the story that you're talking about. You are in effect teaching this reader about the work you're analyzing, and to teach it you have to understand it yourself, or at least for the most part you do. You have to at least be solid on the points you're making. That might sound a little bit contradictory because I know particularly with the last story I was like, I don't know what I think about this, and this is one way to read it, and I'm definitely not an expert on that story, but it's pretty much because like I keep reading about the story and like finding out more information, and I just don't know what all I believe about it yet. The way to understand it best is to ask a lot of questions and work as hard as you can to answer them, and a strong concluding paragraph will be the fruits of this labor. So last thing, give yourself plenty of time, decide on the topic and story first. And I would recommend then rereading the story, looking for quotes and maybe highlighting them along the way, or like writing them down to things that will help you prove your argument. So you do need to kind of figure out what argument you're going to make first. And obviously let me know if you need help. Now, before I stop sharing and before I let you guys go, which we have 5 minutes, this is perfect. Just to kind of look back at the due date calendar. I have all the due dates in bold, but I've kind of got like everything we're looking at each day just written out. So tomorrow we'll go through some literary devices and general info. So that might actually help you kind of figure out your topic a little bit better, because we'll talk about like all the different things you can talk about: point of view, characterization, theme, whatever the other one was. Essay tips on Wednesday. I feel like we just went through these, so I'm going to kind of go back over their resources and see if they add anything to that. And then on Friday, we'll look at MLA formatting and citations, and we should have some time for you guys to kind of work on your thesis this week in class too. Any questions before I let you guys go? All right. Well, I will see you tomorrow for more scintillating presentations. Stay in good health.
Bye.
Bye.